Who were you meeting in New York?
It was only business.
The evidence tells the story. Then let it speak.
Nathan Cruz was 38, a fleet maintenance supervisor in Columbus, Ohio, and the kind of man most people barely noticed. His neighbors believed he was an ordinary blue-collar husband whose life never reached beyond work, family, and weekend yard projects. Every morning he packed his 4-year-old daughter Emma's lunch wiped jelly from her tiny fingers and checked her dinosaur backpack before buckling her into her car seat. What they didn't know was that Nathan had once spent 6 years uncovering financial fraud for a federal task force. As the buckle clicked into place, his phone vibrated. A message from his wife, Isla, lit up the screen. "See you in New York." Nathan read it twice. Then his hand stopped moving. If you're watching from somewhere in the world today, leave a comment telling me your country and your local time. I always enjoy seeing where these stories are reaching. And if you love slow burn mysteries where patience beats panic and evidence speaks louder than emotion, make sure to subscribe. Now let's find out what really happened that morning. Nathan Cruz did not call his wife. He looked at the glowing screen for another second, locked the phone, and slid it into the front pocket of his jeans. Emma twisted around in her car seat, her tiny sneakers tapping against the back of the passenger seat. "Daddy?" Nathan turned and smiled, as though nothing had happened. "What is it, peanut? Can we get the dinosaur pancakes after school?" "We'll see." She accepted the answer without another question. At 4 years old, she measured time differently. Breakfast mattered more than tomorrow. Pancakes mattered more than whatever message had just frozen her father's hand. Nathan closed the rear passenger door and walked around the SUV with slow, measured steps. The late September air carried the smell of wet leaves after an overnight rain. Commuters filled Interstate 670 heading toward downtown Columbus. Everything outside continued exactly as it had 5 minutes earlier. Only Nathan knew that his life had split into 2 versions, the one before the text and the one after it. He drove Emma to Little Oaks Preschool just as he had every weekday for nearly 3 years. She waved goodbye with both hands before disappearing behind the bright blue classroom door. Nathan remained standing outside longer than usual. Parents hurried past carrying coffee cups and backpacks. Teachers laughed. Children ran toward playground equipment. No one noticed the quiet man staring at the entrance with empty hands. His breathing remained steady. That surprised even him. Most husbands would already be dialing numbers. Some would be speeding toward the airport. Others would be filling their heads with worst-case scenarios before breakfast. Nathan did none of those things. Instead, he got back into his SUV and opened the Notes application on his phone. At 8:14 a.m., he typed exactly 9 words. "Received message from Isla, see you in New York." Then he saved the note. No opinions, no assumptions. Just a fact. Years earlier, someone had taught him that memories changed under pressure. Documents didn't. He drove home through Bexley without turning on the radio. His house sat on a quiet street lined with maple trees beginning to turn orange. It wasn't large. 3 bedrooms, 1-car garage, white siding that needed repainting before winter. Neighbors often described Nathan as dependable. They saw him mowing the lawn every Saturday morning, replacing broken fence posts himself, helping elderly neighbors carry groceries. He wasn't the loudest father at neighborhood barbecues. He wasn't the wealthiest husband on the block. Most people remembered him only because he never seemed to complain. What they never asked was why someone with Nathan's calm attention to detail had settled into supervising maintenance schedules for delivery trucks. The answer sat inside a gray storage box in the basement. Federal identification cards, old security badges, boxes of archived notebooks. 6 years. That was how long Nathan had worked as a forensic data analyst for a federal transportation fraud task force based outside Washington, D.C. He had never carried a badge on television, never kicked down doors. His work happened behind monitors, payment records, metadata, shipping manifests, GPS histories, electronic signatures. He learned one lesson that mattered more than every technical certification hanging in government offices. People lied. Data usually didn't. He left that career after Emma was born. The hours became unbearable. Weeks away from home became months. One Christmas Eve, he had been comparing freight invoices while Isla ate dinner alone. The following spring, he resigned. Friends thought he had wasted an impressive career. Nathan disagreed. He had chosen his family, or at least he thought he had. Inside the house, silence greeted him. Isla's favorite coffee mug still rested beside the sink. Her running shoes remained by the garage door. The lavender candle she always lit on Sunday evenings still sat on the fireplace mantel, burned halfway down. Nothing suggested she had planned to disappear. Nathan walked upstairs into the home office. He powered on the desktop computer. The monitor glowed to life. He logged into the family's shared financial dashboard. Not because he expected answers, because routine creates clarity. Checking accounts, savings, mortgage, college fund. Everything appeared normal. Too normal. He remembered something an old supervisor once told him. The cleanest fraud usually looks perfectly ordinary. Nathan opened the transaction history. He scrolled backward. 1 week, 1 month, 3 months. Nothing unusual at first glance. Then he noticed something almost invisible. A recurring electronic payment. $895. Every third Friday. The description read only HM Services. Nathan frowned. He had never heard of HM Services. He searched older statements. The payment stretched back nearly 18 months. Always the same amount. Always processed before dawn. Always approved through Isla's device. His expression never changed. He opened another spreadsheet. Date, amount, reference number, authorization code. He copied every detail. Then he searched household email records. Years ago, Nathan had created shared backup folders because neither he nor Isla liked losing receipts. The folders still synchronized automatically. Thousands of files appeared. Vacation confirmations, insurance documents, school registration forms, restaurant reservations. Then he filtered by keyword. HM. Nothing. He tried services. Hundreds of unrelated results. He changed strategies. Search by payment amount. $895. One document appeared. A confirmation email from 14 months earlier. Sender notifications at hmservices-us.com. Subject payment received. Nathan opened it. The body contained only 4 lines. No company logo, no explanation. Just confirmation of payment and a reference number. That was unusual. Legitimate companies almost always included addresses, customer service numbers, or branding. This email included none of them. Nathan downloaded the message, saved it separately, then checked the email headers. His eyes narrowed. The sending server had originated through a hosting company in New Jersey. Interesting. Not proof, just interesting. He opened the family's shared calendar. Over the last 18 months, Isla's business trips had slowly increased. Cleveland, Chicago, Philadelphia, Boston. Sometimes 2 nights, sometimes 4. Nathan remembered asking once whether the travel was becoming exhausting. She had smiled. Promotion season. He had believed her. Looking back now, patterns emerged that emotions had hidden before. She had started locking her phone, buying designer clothes she previously considered wasteful, taking calls outside, changing passwords, ordering expensive luggage. None of those actions proved betrayal. Together they formed a sequence. Nathan wrote another note. Behavioral timeline. No conclusions. Only dates. He walked into the kitchen and poured himself black coffee. The mug warmed his hands. Outside, a UPS truck stopped across the street. Mr. Donnelly waved while collecting his newspaper. Life continued. Nathan returned to the computer. This time he searched the online banking portal using the payment reference number from HM Services. One linked recipient appeared. The payment destination was not Ohio. It routed through a financial institution in Manhattan, more specifically, a private banking branch located on Park Avenue. Nathan leaned closer. There it was. Not a name, not yet. Only an address. 1 East 57th Street, Manhattan. He copied it into his notebook. Then he opened another browser window. He typed the address slowly. When the search results appeared, Nathan didn't blink. He simply reached for another blank page and began writing down everything he saw. Because somewhere behind that Manhattan address, someone had been preparing this long before Isla sent a 7-word text. And Nathan had just found the first thread worth pulling. Nathan stared at the Manhattan address for nearly a minute before opening another browser tab. 1 East 57th Street. The search results identified the location as a luxury mixed-use building overlooking Midtown, occupied by private wealth managers, boutique law firms, and several corporate investment offices. It was exactly the kind of address designed to discourage curiosity. No storefronts, no obvious company signs. Visitors entered through polished glass doors guarded by uniformed security personnel who recognized regular clients before they ever reached the reception desk. Nathan copied the address into a fresh spreadsheet. Location, date discovered, source, supporting evidence. He created columns automatically the way someone reaches for a seatbelt without thinking. Years away from federal work had not erased old habits. They had simply gone dormant. His coffee had grown cold. He took another sip anyway. The bitterness kept his thoughts sharp. He clicked on the state business registry for New York and entered the only clue he possessed. HM Services. No exact match. He tried variations. HM Service, HM Holdings, Hudson Management, Harbor Meridian. Nearly 20 different companies appeared. Nathan ignored the names that looked legitimate. His attention settled on one registration filed almost 19 months earlier. Hudson Meridian Holdings, LLC, Registered Office 1 East 57th Street. He leaned back in his chair. That was the first real connection. Not proof, not yet, but enough to continue. He opened the public filing. The registered agent was listed as Whitmore Legal Group. Managing attorney Gavin Whitmore. Nathan wrote the name by hand instead of typing it. He always trusted paper when something mattered. He searched Gavin Whitmore. The attorney's professional profile appeared first. 46 years old, graduate of Columbia Law School, recognized by several legal publications for corporate restructuring and asset protection. Member of multiple nonprofit boards. Frequent speaker at financial conferences in New York and Boston. The photograph showed a confident man in a navy suit standing before floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan. Perfect smile. Perfect haircut. Perfect reputation. Nathan had seen men like him before. Not guilty men, successful men. Sometimes the two descriptions belonged to the same person. Sometimes they didn't. He refused to decide which one Gavin Whitmore was without evidence. He clicked through dozens of publicly available corporate records. Whitmore Legal Group had helped establish more than 80 limited liability companies over the past 5 years. That alone meant nothing. Corporate attorneys created LLCs every day. It was routine business. Nathan wasn't looking for routine. He was looking for overlap. He opened another spreadsheet. Company names, formation dates, registered addresses, managing members, bank references. Hours slipped by unnoticed. Outside clouds rolled across the Ohio sky. A lawn service truck hummed somewhere down the street. Emma's preschool would dismiss children at 3 o'clock. Nathan glanced at the clock. 11:42 a.m. He still had time. He searched every company connected to Whitmore Legal Group, one by one. Most disappeared immediately. Restaurants, investment partnerships, real estate developments. Nothing connected to Isla. Then one filing stopped him. Hudson Meridian Holdings listed a mailing contact, Lauren Pierce, Executive Administrative Manager. Nathan searched the name. A professional networking profile appeared. Lauren Pierce, Executive Assistant, Whitmore Legal Group, employed for 8 years. No surprises. Until he noticed the employment history below. Before joining Gavin Whitmore's firm, Lauren had worked for a regional accounting company headquartered in Columbus, Ohio. Nathan circled the word. Coincidence, possibly. He kept reading. The accounting firm's largest client 5 years earlier had been Midwest Fleet Logistics, Nathan's employer. For the first time that day, his fingers stopped above the keyboard. He wasn't searching for his company. His company had found him. He opened Midwest Fleet Logistics' public vendor reports. Nothing unusual. Maintenance contracts, fuel suppliers, insurance providers, all ordinary. He searched archived procurement announcements. Several documents mentioned outside consulting firms hired during infrastructure expansion. One name looked familiar, Empire Harbor Consulting. Nathan searched the company. No website, no meaningful online presence, only another corporate filing. Registered by Whitmore Legal Group. Same address, 1 East 57th Street. Same registered attorney, Gavin Whitmore. Nathan's pulse finally increased. Not dramatically, just enough that he noticed. He stood, walked into the kitchen, rinsed his coffee mug, then returned to the office. Movement helped him think. Emotion narrowed attention. Routine widened it. He resumed searching. This time he ignored names entirely. He focused on dates. Hudson Meridian Holdings formed 19 months earlier. Empire Harbor Consulting formed 17 months earlier. The first unexplained payment from the family's joint account appeared 18 months earlier. Nathan placed 3 yellow sticky notes across his desk. Formation, payment, travel. He retrieved the shared family calendar again. Isla's first business trip to New York. 17 months ago. 2 days after Empire Harbor Consulting became active. Another note joined the others. Not proof. Pattern. His old supervisor had often repeated one sentence. Fraud hides inside patterns that honest people call coincidence. Nathan never forgot it. He opened scanned copies of their previous tax returns. Joint filings, mortgage interest, retirement contributions. Everything appeared ordinary. Then he remembered something Isla had insisted on the previous year. Separate digital signature certificates. "It'll make tax season easier," she had said. At the time, Nathan agreed without another thought. Now he downloaded copies of electronically signed documents. He enlarged Isla's signature. Compared it with older mortgage paperwork. Compared it with Emma's preschool enrollment forms. Compared it with their refinance application from 3 years earlier. Something was different. Barely. The capital I. On older documents, Isla always wrote a long, sweeping opening stroke. The newer signatures used a short vertical line. Most people would never notice. Nathan noticed because he had once spent 4 months helping investigators identify forged freight authorizations worth $28 million. Tiny differences mattered. He printed every signature, placed them side by side, still no conclusions, only observations. His phone buzzed. Nathan looked immediately. Not Isla. A calendar reminder. Pick up Emma. 12:55 p.m. He shut down the printer, gathered every document into a plain manila folder. No dramatic labels, no accusations, only dates, numbers, copies, evidence. Before leaving, he opened one final search. Property ownership, 1 East 57th Street. The condominium associated with Hudson Meridian Holdings had sold 18 months earlier for $4.8 million. Cash purchase. No mortgage recorded. Nathan stared quietly at the number. Neither Isla nor Gavin Whitmore could have afforded that property through ordinary income alone. Someone else was involved, or something much larger funded it. He placed the property record inside the folder, locked the office, picked up his truck keys. During the drive to Little Oaks preschool, his thoughts never drifted toward revenge. He didn't imagine confronting Isla. He didn't rehearse angry speeches. He didn't picture Gavin Whitmore. Instead, he mentally organized questions. Who funded Hudson Meridian Holdings? Why did payments begin before the first New York trip? How did his employer appear in the same network? Why had someone altered digital signatures? Most importantly, who benefited? Emma ran toward him when school ended, carrying a paper dinosaur painted bright green. "Daddy mine has 3 horns." Nathan crouched and smiled. "It looks fierce. It protects everybody." "I believe it." She slipped her tiny hand into his. For several seconds, nothing else existed. Not Manhattan, not Isla, not Gavin Whitmore, not shell companies. Only a little girl proudly carrying a crooked dinosaur made with washable paint. Nathan realized then exactly what he would protect. Not his marriage, not his pride, the truth, and the little hand holding his. As they walked toward the SUV, his phone vibrated once more. This time it wasn't a text. It was an automated banking notification. A new electronic payment had just been approved. The recipient was Hudson Meridian Holdings, LLC, and the authorization had occurred less than 2 minutes earlier. Nathan did not touch the notification while Emma sat beside him. She was happily explaining why her paper dinosaur needed a purple tail instead of a green one. According to her, dinosaurs that protected people were supposed to be colorful because bad dinosaurs only like boring colors. Nathan listened carefully. He nodded at every important detail. He even asked whether the dinosaur had a name. Emma thought for several seconds before announcing, "Captain Sprinkles." Nathan smiled. "Captain Sprinkles sounds very brave." "He is?" "He must be." For the next 15 minutes, the electronic banking alert remained unread on his phone. Nothing about it would change because he looked at it sooner. That had always been another lesson from his former career. Urgency often belonged to emotions. Evidence was patient. When they arrived home, Emma ran inside carrying her artwork. Nathan helped her wash her hands before preparing apple slices and peanut butter for her afternoon snack. She settled at the kitchen table, completely absorbed in coloring another dinosaur. Only then did Nathan remove his phone from his pocket. The notification confirmed exactly what he had suspected. Electronic transfer approved. Recipient Hudson Meridian Holdings, LLC. Amount $4,850.00. Authorization time. At 2:58 p.m. Nathan immediately opened the account history. The payment had originated from a joint investment account carrying both his and Isla's names. He hadn't opened that account in months because it contained long-term savings intended for Emma's future education. The transfer wasn't large enough to trigger an automatic fraud alert. Whoever designed the payment understood banking thresholds. Nathan wrote another note. Transfer amount intentionally below automatic review limits. He added no further comment. Instead, he logged into the investment portal using his own credentials. Access denied. He tried again. Incorrect password. Nathan frowned. He knew the password. He had created it. He selected password history. The account displayed one recent credential update. 3 weeks earlier. Completed from a device registered to Isla. Nathan leaned back quietly. She had changed the password without mentioning it. Again, not proof of wrongdoing, simply another documented fact. He requested an account recovery link. Within seconds, an email appeared in the shared recovery mailbox they had established years ago. The recovery email had not been deleted. Whoever changed the password apparently forgot that Nathan still had access to the backup address. He reset the credentials, signed in. The investment dashboard opened immediately. Total balance, current holdings, retirement index funds, municipal bonds. Everything appeared stable. Then he clicked Activity. His eyes moved slowly down the screen. One transfer, then another, then another. Every payment directed toward Hudson Meridian Holdings, small enough to avoid attention, large enough to accumulate over time. Nathan exported the transaction history. The spreadsheet contained 21 transfers. Total value, $118,400. He closed his eyes for only a moment. Not because of the money, because he suddenly understood something much more important. This wasn't impulsive. No one quietly moved over $100,000 by accident. The planning had taken months, possibly years. Emma laughed from the kitchen. "Daddy, Captain Sprinkles has a baby now." Nathan walked back into the room. "Oh, really?" "She protects little dinosaurs." "That's an important job." Emma nodded seriously. "The most important." Nathan kissed the top of her head before returning to the office. He scanned every exported transaction. The routing numbers all terminated at the same private Manhattan banking institution. There were no overseas accounts, no cryptocurrency, no suspicious international wires. Everything remained inside the American banking system. That suggested confidence. People who expected scrutiny usually hid money overseas. People who believed they would never be questioned often stayed much closer to home. Nathan searched the routing institution, private wealth division. Minimum client relationship, $5 million. That caught his attention. Hudson Meridian Holdings clearly qualified as a high-value client. He opened another browser window and researched the bank's fraud reporting procedures. Public information listed a dedicated financial integrity department. No direct email, only appointment requests. Nathan didn't submit one, not yet. He wanted documents before conversations. Around 4:30, Emma wandered into the office carrying her stuffed rabbit. "Daddy?" "Yes." "Are you working?" "A little." "Can I draw here?" "Of course." She climbed into the chair beside his desk and quietly colored, while Nathan continued reviewing records. Neither spoke for nearly 20 minutes. The silence felt peaceful. Nathan realized that Emma had inherited one of his habits. She never needed noise to feel comfortable. Eventually, she looked up. "When is Mommy coming home?" Nathan stopped typing. Children often asked difficult questions without understanding their weight. "I'm not sure." "Is she working?" "Yes." Emma accepted the answer. "Okay." She returned to coloring. Nathan stared at the monitor. He wasn't ready to explain anything. Not because Emma was too young, because he still didn't know the truth himself. Assumptions were dangerous. Facts protected everyone. By early evening, Nathan had assembled 3 organized folders: financial transfers, corporate records, digital activity. Every document carried timestamps. Every screenshot listed its source. Every downloaded file remained untouched. He knew evidence lost value when handled carelessly. The original copies stayed exactly as retrieved. He printed only duplicates. At 6 o'clock, he prepared dinner: grilled chicken, rice, steamed broccoli. Emma complained politely about the broccoli. Nathan negotiated 2 bites instead of 5. Captain Sprinkles also received an imaginary plate. After dinner, they built block towers in the living room. Nathan laughed when Emma deliberately knocked everything over. For almost an hour, the investigation disappeared from his thoughts. That surprised him. Perhaps because fatherhood required complete attention, or perhaps because Emma reminded him what truly mattered. At 8 o'clock after bath time and 3 bedtime stories, Emma wrapped both arms around his neck. "I love you, Daddy." "I love you too." The biggest. The biggest. She closed her eyes before he even reached the end of the 3rd story. Nathan quietly turned off the bedroom light. The hallway outside felt strangely empty. Normally, Isla would have kissed Emma goodnight. Normally, they would have talked downstairs while washing dishes. Normally, she would have complained about another delayed flight or another difficult meeting. The routines of ordinary marriage had disappeared without warning. Nathan walked into the kitchen. He poured another cup of coffee despite the late hour. Then he opened his laptop once more. This time he searched publicly available property tax records connected to Hudson Meridian Holdings. Most ownership information remained protected through corporate registration. However, one filing referenced legal representation, Whitmore Legal Group. Attention, Gavin Whitmore. Nathan expected that. The next document surprised him. An amendment filed 11 months earlier authorized an additional corporate representative. The signature belonged to Lauren Pierce, Executive Administrative Manager. Not an attorney, not an owner, yet someone with authority over corporate filings. Nathan highlighted the amendment. Administrative assistants rarely received legal authority over multi-million-dollar property entities, unless they were doing much more than scheduling meetings. Nathan wrote one more question into his notebook. What exactly is Lauren Pierce managing? He leaned back. The office had become almost completely dark, except for the glow of his monitor. Outside rain began tapping gently against the windows. His phone buzzed again. Not a banking alert this time. An incoming email. Subject: Appointment confirmation. Sender: First National Trust Bank. Nathan frowned. He had never requested an appointment. He opened the email. It thanked him for scheduling a fraud consultation for 9 o'clock the following morning with senior financial fraud investigator Rebecca Lawson. Nathan read the message twice. Someone had submitted the appointment using his name, but whoever had done it had unknowingly handed him exactly the opportunity he had been planning to create himself. He closed the laptop, picked up the printed documents, and quietly placed them into a locked briefcase. Tomorrow, for the first time since Isla's message arrived, someone professionally trained to recognize financial deception would be looking at the same evidence he had spent the entire day assembling. Nathan woke before dawn. For years, his internal clock had rarely failed him. Even after leaving federal investigative work, the habit remained. 5:30 in the morning arrived, and his eyes opened without an alarm. The house was completely silent. Rain from the previous evening had left tiny droplets clinging to the kitchen windows. Streetlights reflected softly across the wet pavement outside. Nathan brewed coffee. Strong, black, no sugar. As the machine hummed, he opened the locked briefcase on the dining room table. 3 folders, financial transfers, corporate records, digital activity. Everything remained exactly where he had placed it the night before. He checked each document one final time. Every page was numbered. Every screenshot included the retrieval date. Every note distinguished between facts and observations. He refused to blur the line between the two. At 6 o'clock, Emma padded downstairs wearing dinosaur pajamas and rubbing her eyes. "Daddy." "Morning? Is Mommy still working?" Nathan looked at her for only a second. "She is." Emma nodded sleepily. "Can we make pancakes tomorrow?" "I think we can." She smiled. "With blueberries?" "Absolutely." They ate breakfast together. Nathan tied her shoes, brushed her hair into a simple ponytail, and packed her preschool bag exactly as he always did. Routine mattered. Children noticed broken routines long before they understood broken relationships. By 7:30, they were driving toward Little Oaks Preschool. Emma sang along with a children's song playing quietly through the speakers. Nathan listened while his thoughts remained elsewhere. At exactly 9 o'clock, he had an appointment that someone else had scheduled under his name. He still didn't know why. The timing bothered him. Either it was a coincidence, or someone expected him to discover the financial transfers. Neither explanation made complete sense. After dropping Emma off, Nathan headed toward downtown Columbus. First National Trust occupied the lower floors of a modern glass office tower overlooking the Scioto River. The lobby reflected polished marble and brushed steel. Professional. Quiet. Orderly. Nathan appreciated places built around procedure. The receptionist smiled politely. "Good morning. Name?" "Nathan Cruz." She typed for several seconds. "Miss Rebecca Lawson is expecting you." Interesting. No hesitation, no confusion. Whoever created the appointment had done it correctly. Nathan accepted a visitor badge before riding the elevator to the 12th floor. Rebecca Lawson greeted him herself. She appeared to be in her early 40s, dressed in a charcoal business suit with practical black shoes instead of fashionable heels. Nothing about her office suggested unnecessary decoration. Framed certifications, banking regulations, fraud investigation manuals, a large whiteboard covered in timelines from previous cases. Nathan noticed all of it before sitting down. She noticed him noticing. "You observe details." Nathan smiled faintly. "I used to." Rebecca extended her hand. "Rebecca Lawson, Senior Financial Fraud Investigator." "Nathan Cruz." "I've reviewed the appointment request." Nathan remained silent. She opened the electronic file. "It states you believe someone may be transferring money without your knowledge." "I didn't write that." Rebecca looked up. "You didn't?" "No." She studied his expression for several seconds. "You seem certain." "I am." The investigator closed the electronic file. "Then let's start over." Nathan appreciated that answer. No assumptions, only a reset. He placed the 3 folders on her desk. "I'd rather begin with documents." Rebecca nodded. "So would I." She opened the financial transfers folder first. Her eyes moved steadily across each page. She rarely interrupted. Occasionally she highlighted a routing number. Sometimes she made a note in the margin. Nearly 20 minutes passed before she spoke. "These transfers are real." "I know. They total over $118,000. "Correct." "You exported everything yesterday." "Immediately after discovering them." Rebecca turned another page. "Excellent documentation." Nathan didn't respond. Compliments had no value inside investigations. Accuracy did. She continued reading. Eventually, she stopped at the banking authorization times. "Interesting." Nathan waited. Every transfer occurred between 2:30 and 4:15 in the afternoon. "So, that's when internal fraud monitoring experiences its highest transaction volume." Nathan understood immediately. The transfers blend into normal banking traffic. "Exactly." Rebecca looked at him carefully. "Most customers would never recognize that pattern." Nathan answered honestly. "I wasn't always a maintenance supervisor." She smiled slightly. "I suspected as much." "What gave it away?" "You separate observations from conclusions." Nathan laughed quietly. "Old habit." Rebecca leaned back. "What did you do before forensic data analysis?" "Government, transportation fraud." "How long? 6 years?" She nodded. "That explains your notes." Nathan watched as she opened the corporate records folder. She stopped at Hudson Meridian Holdings, then Whitmore Legal Group, then Gavin Whitmore, finally Lauren Pierce. Rebecca circled Lauren's name. "This one interests me." "Why?" "Administrative managers don't usually receive corporate filing authority." "That's what I thought." "Unless—" She stopped. Nathan finished the sentence. "They're functioning as operational officers." Rebecca nodded. "Exactly. For the first time, both investigators reached the same conclusion independently. That mattered. Independent agreement reduced bias." She opened her computer. Within moments, she accessed databases unavailable to the general public. Nathan didn't ask what they were. He recognized restricted financial systems when he saw them. Rebecca entered Hudson Meridian Holdings. The screen loaded several internal banking records. She frowned. "That's odd." Nathan remained silent. She searched again. "This company has significantly more assets than public filings indicate." "How much more?" Rebecca hesitated. "I can't disclose exact numbers." "I understand. But—" She looked directly at him. "It's substantially larger than one Manhattan property." Nathan felt the investigation shift. Until now, he had assumed Hudson Meridian Holdings existed primarily as a shell company. Perhaps it wasn't. Perhaps it controlled multiple entities. Rebecca searched Gavin Whitmore. Nothing unusual. Then Lauren Pierce. Again she paused. This gets stranger. Nathan waited. Lauren Pierce isn't merely an authorized representative. What is she? According to internal banking authority, she's designated as an operational compliance contact. Nathan frowned. For one company? Rebecca slowly shook her head. For 7. Nathan's eyebrows rose slightly. 7. She turned the monitor toward him. 7 corporate entities. Different names, different registration dates, same Manhattan address, same private banking relationship, same operational contact, Lauren Pierce. Nathan copied every company name into his notebook. Rebecca noticed. You still write everything by hand? I trust paper. So do I. She closed the database. I have a question. Go ahead. Why come to the bank before contacting your wife? Nathan answered without hesitation. Because conversations change stories. And documents, they don't. Rebecca smiled for the first time. I've interviewed thousands of customers. And you're the first one who brought organized evidence before accusations. Nathan looked toward the rain-covered window. I don't know what my wife has done, Rebecca corrected him gently. You don't know everything she's done. He nodded. Fair enough. She stood and walked toward a secure filing cabinet. After unlocking it, she removed a slim blue folder. This is unusual. Nathan remained seated. I shouldn't technically show you this. Then don't. Rebecca considered his answer. Finally, she placed the folder back inside. But I can tell you something. Nathan listened carefully. 3 months ago, another customer reported transactions involving one of these companies. What happened? The complaint was withdrawn within 48 hours. Why? We never found out. Nathan thought quietly. Either the customer had been convinced, or intimidated. Neither possibility appealed to him. Rebecca returned to her chair. I'm opening an internal review. Nathan asked only one question. Will anyone be notified? Not yet. She closed the folders carefully. Because until we know exactly what we're looking at, I don't want whoever scheduled this mysterious appointment realizing that you've started asking the right questions. Nathan slipped the folders back into his briefcase. As he stood to leave, Rebecca spoke once more. Mr. Cruz, he turned. If someone arranged this meeting without your knowledge. Yes. They may have expected you to find the money. Nathan frowned. Or they wanted to make absolutely certain you did. Nathan walked toward the elevator carrying more questions than when he had arrived. But one thing had become unmistakably clear. Someone inside the network wasn't protecting Isla. Someone inside it was quietly leading Nathan directly toward the truth. Nathan left the bank carrying the same briefcase, but a very different understanding of the situation. Until that morning, he believed he was investigating one suspicious company. Now there were at least 7. 7 corporations, 1 Manhattan address, 1 private banking relationship, 1 attorney, 1 administrative manager with authority that exceeded her job title, and somewhere inside that network stood Isla. Whether she was a participant, a victim, or something in between remained unanswered. Nathan refused to force an answer before the evidence provided one. The October sun finally pushed through the morning clouds as he crossed the parking garage. His phone displayed 10:37 a.m. He had nearly 5 hours before picking up Emma. Enough time to continue working, not enough time to become careless. He drove to the Columbus Metropolitan Library instead of returning home. Public libraries had become one of his favorite workplaces years ago. Quiet, reliable internet, no curious neighbors, no unnecessary interruptions. He settled into a corner table overlooking High Street. The librarian recognized him from previous visits and offered a friendly nod. Nathan returned the greeting before opening his laptop. He created a brand new folder, title Whitmore Network. Inside it, he established subfolders: corporate filings, property records, financial transfers, travel timeline, public statements. He preferred structure before analysis. Disorganized information often hid important relationships. Nathan began with the 7 corporate names Rebecca Lawson had allowed him to copy: Hudson Meridian Holdings, Empire Harbor Consulting, Lexbridge Commercial Advisors, Crescent Harbor Assets, Northgate Equity Partners, Stonewell Strategic Management, Atlantic Meridian Development. Each company appeared legitimate at first glance. Each possessed proper registration documents, annual reports, registered agents, compliance filings, tax identification numbers. Nothing obvious connected them, which Nathan knew often meant someone had worked very hard to make them appear unrelated. He opened a spreadsheet. Across the top, he entered columns: company, formation date, registered address, managing attorney, authorized representative, purpose, known financial activity. One by one, he entered every available detail. Patterns slowly emerged. Formation dates occurred within 22 months. Every company used Whitmore Legal Group. Every mailing address traced back to 1 East 57th Street. Lauren Pierce appeared on 5 corporate amendments, not 7, 5. That difference caught Nathan's attention immediately. Why only 5? He highlighted the discrepancy in yellow. The 2 companies without Lauren's name had been formed earliest. The remaining 5 listed her after she joined their filings. A promotion or expanding responsibility. He wasn't sure. He continued searching. Public procurement databases revealed something unexpected. Empire Harbor Consulting had received consulting contracts from multiple transportation companies across Ohio. None of the contracts were especially large. Most ranged between $80,000 and $300,000. Ordinary enough to avoid newspaper coverage, extraordinary enough to generate substantial revenue over time. Nathan enlarged one procurement notice: Client Midwest Fleet Logistics. His employer, contract value $286,000. Consulting purpose, fleet optimization analysis. Nathan leaned back. He had supervised maintenance scheduling throughout the contract period. He had never once met anyone from Empire Harbor Consulting. That wasn't impossible. Maintenance supervisors rarely attended executive consulting meetings. Still, it bothered him. He searched internal company newsletters archived online. One article described a successful efficiency initiative completed the previous year. Several executives appeared in the accompanying photograph. Nathan recognized every face except one. Standing near the back, navy suit, confident smile. Gavin Whitmore. The caption identified him as outside legal counsel advising the restructuring project. Nathan downloaded the photograph. He zoomed in. Near Gavin stood another woman wearing a burgundy business suit. Only part of her face remained visible. The resolution wasn't high enough for certainty, but something about her posture felt familiar. He enlarged the image further. Pixelation destroyed most details. No conclusion. Only possibility. Nathan filed the image anyway. He checked the timestamp, taken 16 months earlier. 16 months. Exactly when Isla's business travel had become more frequent. He added another note. Possible attendance. Identity unconfirmed. Never stronger language than the evidence deserved. Around noon, he stepped outside for fresh air. Food trucks lined the nearby plaza. Office workers crowded picnic tables beneath autumn trees. Nathan purchased a turkey sandwich and bottled water. He ate slowly while watching people hurry through ordinary afternoons. Some laughed with coworkers, others spoke into phones. A father walked by carrying his toddler on his shoulders. Nathan smiled. Emma loved riding that way. He wondered whether she had already asked another teacher when Mommy would come home. Children filled silence with innocent questions. Adults filled silence with assumptions. Nathan intended to do neither. Back inside the library, he shifted his attention to travel records. Isla's business trips, flight confirmations, hotel receipts, rental cars. Most confirmations had disappeared from shared email folders. Not all. Many airlines automatically retained metadata inside archived calendars. Nathan exported every calendar entry. Departure city, arrival city, hotel, duration. He placed them into chronological order. Then another pattern surfaced. Nearly every New York trip lasted exactly 48 hours. No longer. No shorter. Arrivals consistently occurred on Thursday evenings. Returns happened Saturday mornings. Nathan searched conference schedules in New York during those dates. Several legitimate business events appeared: financial compliance seminars, regional banking conferences, corporate governance workshops. None listed Isla's employer among participating organizations. Interesting. He downloaded attendee brochures anyway. One conference featured keynote speaker Gavin Whitmore. Date: 17 months earlier. Location: a hotel 3 blocks from 1 East 57th Street. Nathan circled the information. Coincidence remained possible, but coincidence had become increasingly expensive. His phone vibrated softly. A text message. Unknown number. He opened it carefully. Stop looking backward. No signature, no name, no emoji. Only 4 words. Nathan stared at the message. Most people would immediately wonder who had sent it. Nathan wondered something else first. How did someone know he had begun looking? He checked the message details. Internet-based delivery, temporary routing service, disposable number, professionally anonymized. Interesting. He took screenshots, saved the metadata, exported the conversation, then powered his phone completely off. Not because he believed it had been compromised, because caution cost very little. Fear cost much more. He restarted the phone 5 minutes later. No additional messages appeared. Nathan considered calling Rebecca Lawson. He decided against it. One anonymous text proved almost nothing. A documented pattern would prove much more. At 2:15, he packed his laptop and headed toward Little Oaks preschool. Emma burst through the classroom doors carrying a paper crown. "I was queen today." "Were you?" "Only for reading time." "What happened after that?" "I shared." Nathan laughed. "That sounds like you." She climbed into her booster seat and proudly adjusted the crooked paper crown. "Daddy." "Yes." "Can Mommy see this?" Nathan fastened her seatbelt carefully. "I hope so," she smiled. "I'll save it." Nathan closed the car door. For a brief moment he rested one hand on the roof of the SUV. He wasn't fighting for money anymore. He wasn't even fighting to save his marriage. He was fighting to make sure Emma would someday know exactly what happened. Not rumors, not accusations, not guesses. The truth. Nothing more. Nothing less. As he rounded the driver's side door, another notification appeared on his phone. This one came from his corporate email. Subject: Mandatory Executive Operations Meeting. Attendance required. Location: Midwest Fleet Logistics Headquarters. Time: 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Nathan frowned. Maintenance supervisors were almost never invited to executive operations meetings, especially not mandatory ones. He opened the email. The attendee list included senior executives, outside legal counsel, department directors, and one name that immediately captured his attention: Gavin Whitmore. For the first time since receiving Isla's message, Nathan realized he might not need to travel to Manhattan to find the attorney behind the shell companies. The attorney was coming to Columbus, and tomorrow morning they would be sitting in the same room. Nathan arrived at Midwest Fleet Logistics 45 minutes earlier than usual. The parking lot remained half empty. Only maintenance crews, warehouse supervisors, and a handful of executives typically arrived before 7:30. Morning air carried the familiar scent of diesel fuel mixed with fresh asphalt after the previous night's rain. For nearly 4 years, this building had represented stability, predictable schedules, reliable routines, honest work. Today it felt different. Not because the building had changed, because Nathan had. He parked near the employee entrance and remained inside the SUV for a moment. Before leaving home, he had transferred copies of every important document onto 2 encrypted flash drives. One remained locked inside the house. The second rested in his briefcase. Redundancy had once been standard procedure. Old habits rarely disappeared. His phone displayed no additional anonymous messages, no missed calls from Isla, no explanation. He stepped out of the vehicle and walked inside. The maintenance department occupied the western side of the headquarters. Concrete floors, steel shelving, diagnostic equipment, stacks of repair orders. Everything appeared exactly as it had the previous afternoon. Mike Hernandez looked up from a workbench. "Morning, Nate." "Morning. You hear about the executive meeting?" "I got the email." Mike laughed. "Wonder what they want with us regular people." Nathan shrugged. "I guess we'll find out." Mike returned to tightening bolts on a hydraulic assembly. Nothing about his behavior suggested concern. Nathan appreciated that. Ordinary conversations grounded him. He spent the next 40 minutes reviewing maintenance schedules, approving parts requests, and signing inspection reports. He refused to neglect his responsibilities simply because another investigation occupied his thoughts. Professional discipline mattered. At 7:55 a.m., another email reminder appeared. Executive Operations Conference Room, 8th floor, attendance required. Nathan picked up his notebook and briefcase before taking the elevator upstairs. The executive floor looked entirely different from the maintenance division. Soft carpeting replaced polished concrete. Modern artwork decorated the walls. Large glass offices overlooked downtown Columbus. Everything communicated success. The conference room doors stood open. Inside, nearly 20 people had already gathered. Department directors, financial officers, human resources executives, operations managers. Nathan recognized almost every face. He quietly selected a seat near the end of the long conference table, far enough away to observe everyone, close enough to hear every conversation. He placed only a legal pad and pen in front of him. The briefcase remained closed beside his chair. At exactly 8 o'clock, the room fell silent. Company President Richard Ellison entered first. Behind him came 2 unfamiliar executives, then another man, tall, lean, perfectly tailored navy suit, silver tie, calm expression. Nathan recognized him immediately from the downloaded photograph. Gavin Whitmore. The attorney greeted several executives by first name, comfortably, confidently, as though he had attended dozens of meetings inside this building. Nathan watched without staring. Observation, not confrontation. Gavin eventually took a seat halfway down the table. His eyes briefly scanned the room. For less than a second, they rested on Nathan. No reaction, no recognition, nothing. Interesting. Either Gavin truly had never met him, or he possessed remarkable self-control. Richard Ellison cleared his throat. "Good morning, everyone." Routine introductions followed: quarterly performance, fleet expansion, insurance renewals, contract compliance. Nathan listened carefully despite the ordinary agenda. Sometimes the most valuable information appeared between routine discussions. After nearly 30 minutes, Richard nodded toward Gavin. "I'd like to introduce our outside legal advisor, Mr. Gavin Whitmore." Polite applause filled the room. Gavin stood. "Thank you." His voice sounded calm and measured, professional, never rushed. "Our firm has spent the past 18 months assisting Midwest Fleet Logistics with strategic expansion." Nathan wrote down one phrase. 18 months. the same period during which Isla's travel had increased. Coincidence remained possible. Still, he continued listening. Gavin advanced several presentation slides: corporate restructuring, risk management, regional acquisitions, legal compliance. Everything appeared ordinary. Until one slide displayed consulting partnerships, Empire Harbor Consulting. Nathan recognized the company instantly. He kept his expression neutral. Gavin continued speaking. Outside consulting allows organizations to improve operational efficiency while maintaining regulatory compliance. Nathan glanced around the room. No one reacted to the company name. Why would they? To everyone else, Empire Harbor represented another consulting firm. Only Nathan knew it belonged inside a network of interconnected corporations. He wrote another note: public disclosure. No attempt to hide relationship. That mattered. Sophisticated fraud rarely relied on secrecy alone. It often relied on complexity. If something appeared ordinary enough, few people questioned it. Near the end of Gavin's presentation, one executive raised a question. "What determines which consulting partners we select?" Gavin answered smoothly. "Our recommendations undergo financial review before executive approval." Nathan underlined 2 words: financial review. Who conducted it? Another executive asked, "Are there conflicts of interest?" Gavin smiled politely. "Every potential conflict receives independent legal evaluation." Nathan noticed something subtle. Gavin answered immediately. No hesitation, no searching for words. He had likely addressed that question many times before. The meeting paused briefly while coffee was served. Executives formed small conversational groups around the refreshment table. Nathan remained seated, watching, listening. 2 finance managers stood nearby discussing vendor payments. Lauren already sent the revised authorization. Nathan's attention sharpened. The second manager nodded. "She always gets paperwork finished before anyone else." Nathan wrote the sentence exactly as spoken. Lauren, authorization, paperwork, finished early. Neither manager seemed aware that their casual conversation carried investigative value. Moments later, Richard Ellison approached Nathan. "Nathan." "Morning. I appreciate you attending." "Of course." Richard smiled. "I know executive meetings aren't exactly your favorite way to spend the morning." Nathan returned a polite smile. "They're educational." Richard laughed. "I like that answer." Before walking away, he added something unexpected. "Gavin mentioned he wanted to meet several department supervisors after the meeting." Nathan looked toward the attorney. "Did he?" Fresh perspective, apparently. "Interesting. Very interesting." The meeting concluded shortly before 10. Executives gradually dispersed into smaller conversations. Nathan packed his notebook slowly. He had almost reached the doorway when someone spoke behind him. "Mr. Cruz." Nathan turned. Gavin Whitmore stood several feet away. Up close, the attorney appeared slightly older than Nathan expected. Mid-40s, well-maintained, confident without appearing arrogant. He extended his hand. "Nathan Cruz." "Yes." "I'm Gavin Whitmore." "I know." Gavin smiled politely. "I've heard positive things about your maintenance division." "That's good to hear." "I understand equipment reliability has improved significantly." "Our team deserves the credit." "Humble." Nathan offered no response. Gavin glanced briefly toward the nearly empty conference room. "I always enjoy meeting the people who actually keep businesses running." Nathan studied the attorney's face. Perfectly controlled. Every expression seemed intentional, nothing excessive, nothing accidental. Years of negotiation had likely taught him emotional discipline. "How long have you been with Midwest Fleet?" Gavin asked. "Almost 4 years." "And before that," Nathan answered carefully. "Transportation analytics." Gavin nodded without visible curiosity. "Useful background." "It has been." For several seconds, neither man spoke. Nathan noticed Gavin's eyes. They moved constantly. Doors, hallways, employees, security cameras, an unconscious habit of someone accustomed to assessing environments. Finally, Gavin said, "Perhaps we'll cross paths again." "I'm sure it's possible." Another polite handshake. Then Gavin walked toward the executive offices. Nathan watched him disappear around the corner. Only after the attorney vanished did Nathan reopen his notebook. He wrote one final observation. Gavin asked about my previous work without asking where. Most people naturally followed with another question. Who, where, doing what Gavin hadn't. Either the answer genuinely didn't interest him, or he already knew enough not to ask. Nathan slipped the notebook into his briefcase. His instincts, sharpened years earlier during federal investigations, whispered the same warning they had given him countless times before. The most dangerous people rarely revealed themselves through what they said. They revealed themselves through the questions they deliberately chose not to ask. Nathan returned to the maintenance department just before lunch, but his attention no longer rested on hydraulic systems or repair schedules. It rested on Gavin Whitmore. The attorney had looked directly at him, asked about his previous career, then walked away without seeking another answer. To most people, the exchange would have seemed ordinary. To Nathan, it felt carefully measured. People trained in negotiation often asked questions to collect information. People already holding information asked questions to confirm it. There was a difference. Nathan intended to discover which type Gavin had become. The afternoon passed with unusual efficiency. He completed inspection reports, approved overtime requests, reviewed safety documentation. His co-workers noticed nothing unusual. That suited him perfectly. Investigations succeeded when they remained invisible. At 1:30, his office phone rang. Nathan Cruz. "Mr. Cruz?" The voice belonged to Rebecca Lawson. "This is Rebecca." Nathan closed his office door. "I wasn't expecting your call. I found something." Nathan remained silent. She continued. "I can't discuss restricted banking records over an unsecured line." "I understand. But I can tell you this." Nathan reached for his notebook. "The 7 companies aren't operating independently." "I suspected that." "We've confirmed regular transfers between them." Nathan wrote one sentence. "Internal movement confirmed," Rebecca continued. "The timing is consistent." Meaning, money enters one company. A short pause. "Within hours it moves to another. And then, we're still following it." Nathan asked carefully, "Money laundering." "I didn't say that." "You didn't need to." Rebecca remained silent for several seconds. Finally, she spoke. "Can you meet tomorrow morning?" "Where?" "Not the bank." Nathan waited. "A federal building." His pen stopped moving. "Federal, yes. Who else will be there?" "I'm not authorized to discuss that over the phone." Nathan understood immediately. Someone new had entered the investigation. "I'll be there. I'll text the address." The call ended. Nathan leaned back slowly. Rebecca hadn't sounded alarmed. She had sounded focused. That difference mattered. He returned to work until nearly 4 o'clock before picking up Emma. She climbed into the SUV wearing the paper crown she had promised to save. "Daddy." "Yes. I got a star today." "For what?" "I helped Noah clean up." Nathan smiled. "I'm proud of you." She looked out the window. "When Mommy comes home, I'll show her." Nathan gripped the steering wheel slightly tighter. "I think she'd like that." Emma accepted the answer without another question. Children trusted simple promises. Adults complicated them. Back home, Nathan prepared macaroni and cheese while Emma colored dinosaurs at the kitchen table. Ordinary evenings had become precious. Every laugh reminded him what truly deserved protection. After dinner, Emma fell asleep before 8. Nathan carried her carefully to bed. She wrapped one small arm around his neck without waking. He gently tucked the blanket around her shoulders. The paper crown rested on the bedside table. He quietly closed the bedroom door. Only then did the investigation return. Nathan opened his laptop. Instead of searching corporate records, he examined something different: his own company email archive. He searched one word: Empire. 3 results appeared. The first involved the executive meeting from earlier that morning. The second referenced a consulting invoice. The third caught his attention immediately. Subject: archived vendor authorization. Date: 18 months earlier. Exactly when Gavin Whitmore first appeared at Midwest Fleet Logistics, Nathan opened the email. Most attachments had been removed under routine retention policies. One PDF remained. Vendor Approval Matrix. Page after page listed departments authorized to approve outside consultants: operations, finance, legal, human resources. Near the bottom appeared a handwritten electronic signature: Lauren Pierce. Not as an employee, not as a consultant, as an authorized compliance reviewer. Nathan stared at the signature. Why would an assistant at Whitmore Legal Group possess authority inside his employer's vendor approval process? That made no procedural sense, unless she wasn't functioning merely as an assistant. Nathan searched Lauren's name again. 23 emails appeared. Most involved legal scheduling, meeting confirmations, contract revisions, routine correspondence, nothing unusual, until one attachment: meeting participants. The attendee list included Richard Ellison, Chief Financial Officer Melissa Grant, Gavin Whitmore, Lauren Pierce, and Isla Cruz. Nathan froze. The meeting had occurred 14 months earlier. Location: New York. Subject: strategic integration workshop. Nathan reread the list 3 times. There it was, the first documented connection between Isla and Gavin. Not a rumor, not speculation. A corporate meeting, documented. Time-stamped, archived. Nathan immediately saved 3 copies. 1 encrypted, 1 external, 1 printed. He trusted paper. The printer quietly hummed inside his home office. As the pages emerged, another notification appeared. Unknown sender. No subject line. Only 1 photograph. Nathan enlarged it. His own house. Taken from across the street. The image appeared recent. Very recent. His porch light was on. Emma's bicycle rested beside the front steps, exactly where she had left it after preschool. Someone had photographed his home that evening. No accompanying message. No threat. Only the image. Nathan's heartbeat slowed instead of accelerating. Fear encouraged mistakes. Calm preserved judgment. He checked every available detail. No location data. Anonymous routing. Temporary server. The sender understood basic operational security. Nathan immediately closed every window blind downstairs. He switched off unnecessary lights. Not because he believed immediate danger existed, because whoever sent the image wanted him to know he was being observed. Nathan refused to reward intimidation. He photographed the message using a separate digital camera, documented the timestamp, recorded his observations. Then he powered down the laptop. At 9:30, another call arrived. Rebecca. I just received something. So did I. Silence, and You too, Nathan answered calmly. A photograph of my house. Rebecca exhaled slowly. I received an anonymous complaint claiming I should stop reviewing Hudson Meridian. Nathan understood. They're testing reactions. I believe so, Rebecca continued. I've already informed federal authorities. Nathan noticed the wording. Already. Not planning to. Already. The meeting tomorrow. Yes. It isn't only with you anymore. No. Who's leading it? I'll let him introduce himself. Him. A male investigator, federal. Nathan had a reasonable guess. When the call ended, he walked quietly through the darkened house. Every door remained locked, every window secure. Emma continued sleeping peacefully. Nothing appeared disturbed. Still, he couldn't ignore one undeniable reality. Until that evening, the investigation had existed entirely inside documents, financial transfers, corporate filings, digital records. Now someone had crossed into the physical world. Not with violence, with observation. A warning without words. Nathan stood beside the living room window without opening the curtain. Somewhere outside, perhaps only hours earlier, someone had pointed a camera toward his home. They wanted him to hesitate, to panic, to retreat. Instead, they had accomplished the opposite. For the first time since reading Isla's message, Nathan knew with absolute certainty that he was no longer chasing coincidence. He was uncovering something powerful enough that unknown people had begun watching him before he had even identified all the questions. Tomorrow, the investigation would no longer belong solely to him. Tomorrow, the federal government would step into the case. Nathan left his house before sunrise. Emma still slept peacefully beneath her dinosaur blanket. He paused outside her bedroom for a moment, listening to the quiet rhythm of her breathing. That sound reminded him why he refused to let anger guide his decisions. Every choice he made now would eventually shape her future. He locked the front door, climbed into the SUV, and drove toward downtown Columbus. Rebecca's message had included only an address and a time, 7:30. No additional instructions. The federal building stood several blocks from the courthouse. Gray limestone walls, reinforced glass, uniformed security officers. Nathan parked across the street and watched employees entering through the main entrance. Nobody appeared hurried. Nobody appeared alarmed. Government buildings rarely reflected the urgency of the investigations inside them. He entered at precisely 7:25. After presenting identification and passing through security screening, he received a temporary visitor badge. An employee escorted him to the 6th floor. Conference room 6B. The room looked surprisingly ordinary. One long table, several computer monitors, coffee, water, nothing dramatic. Rebecca Lawson stood beside the window reviewing several folders. She looked up as Nathan entered. "Good morning." "Morning. You found the place." "I've spent enough years inside government buildings." Rebecca smiled faintly. "I remember." Nathan noticed another person seated near the far end of the table. Tall, athletic, dark navy suit, short black hair beginning to gray at the temples. The man calmly closed a file before standing. "Mr. Cruz." Nathan shook his hand. "Marcus Holloway." The name immediately matched Rebecca's earlier description. Federal, male, calm. Marcus continued. "Federal Bureau of Investigation." Nathan nodded once. "I assumed." Marcus gestured toward a chair. "Please." Nathan sat. Rebecca remained standing. Marcus opened a thin folder. "We've reviewed the information you've collected independently." Nathan remained silent. It was thorough. "Thank you." It was also risky. Nathan accepted the observation without argument. Marcus folded his hands. "Mr. Cruz, before joining Midwest Fleet Logistics, you spent 6 years assigned to a federal transportation fraud task force." "Correct." "You resigned voluntarily?" "Yes." "No disciplinary actions?" "No." Marcus nodded. "Good." Nathan realized the meeting wasn't about his evidence. It was about him. The FBI needed to determine whether he could be trusted. Marcus continued. "We verified your employment history." He turned another page. "Your investigative reports resulted in 19 criminal convictions." Nathan said nothing. "You testified in 7 federal trials." "Correct." "You've never leaked protected evidence." "No." Marcus closed the folder. "That's why you're here." Nathan understood. Rebecca hadn't invited him merely to share information. She had vouched for him. Marcus leaned slightly forward. "What I'm about to discuss remains confidential." "I understand. If this investigation proceeds formally, you cannot conduct independent surveillance." Nathan nodded. You cannot contact witnesses. I won't. You cannot access restricted financial systems. I don't have access anymore. Marcus appreciated the answer. Good. Rebecca placed several printed photographs onto the table. Nathan recognized them immediately. The photograph of his house, the anonymous text, the archived meeting participant list, his notes. Marcus watched his reaction. We already have copies. Nathan looked toward Rebecca. I forwarded everything after we spoke. Nathan nodded. That had been the correct decision. Marcus spoke again. The photograph of your home concerns us. It concerns me too. Have you noticed anyone following you? No. Unusual vehicles? No. Repeated encounters, Nathan thought carefully, then remembered. Gavin Whitmore asked about my previous work. Marcus exchanged a glance with Rebecca. Tell me exactly what happened. Nathan described the executive meeting in chronological order. No exaggeration, no assumptions, only observable facts. Marcus interrupted only twice. What exact words did he use? Nathan repeated them precisely. And your response? Nathan repeated that too. When the explanation finished, Marcus remained quiet for several moments. Finally, he spoke. I don't believe Gavin was introducing himself. Nathan waited. I believe he was confirming your identity. Nathan had reached the same conclusion. Marcus continued. Someone likely recognized your name after you requested public corporate records. Rebecca added another point. Or after your bank visit. Nathan considered both possibilities. Neither seemed reassuring. Marcus stood and walked toward a large monitor. A digital organizational chart appeared. Nathan immediately recognized several names. Hudson Meridian Holdings, Empire Harbor Consulting, Atlantic Meridian Development. The same companies he had documented, but the chart extended much farther. More than 30 interconnected corporations. Nathan stared silently. Rebecca spoke. What you've uncovered represents only one section. Marcus pointed toward the center. Money moves through multiple legal entities before reaching final destinations. Nathan examined the arrows. Each company transferred funds to another, then another, then another. An intentionally confusing network. Who owns them? Nathan asked. Marcus answered carefully. That's what we're proving. Rebecca pointed toward one highlighted section. These companies have processed approximately $87 million during the past 4 years. Nathan looked back at the screen. 87 million. Far beyond ordinary consulting fraud, Marcus continued. We're investigating potential wire fraud. He highlighted another connection. Tax violations. Another. False corporate reporting. Another. Potential money laundering. Nathan quietly absorbed every word. The investigation had expanded dramatically beyond marital betrayal. Rebecca turned toward him. Your wife's name appears in only 3 documented meetings. Nathan looked up. Only 3? Yes. Marcus added. That's important. Nathan frowned. Why? Because people at the center usually appear everywhere. Rebecca continued. Isla appears only occasionally. Nathan considered that carefully, meaning she may not understand the entire operation. Possibly? Marcus raised one finger. Or she serves a limited function. Nathan appreciated the distinction. Evidence first, conclusions later. Marcus dimmed the monitor. We're not asking you to investigate anymore. Nathan looked directly at him. We're asking something else. What? We want you to continue living normally. Nathan waited. Marcus continued. Go to work. Pick up Emma. If Isla contacts you, respond naturally. Nathan understood. You want them comfortable. Exactly. Rebecca added, people under pressure make mistakes. Marcus returned to his seat. We're already obtaining warrants. Nathan's attention sharpened. Warrants? For financial records. Nathan nodded slowly. So the investigation has become official. It already was. Marcus paused. You simply didn't know. The room fell silent. Nathan realized something important. The federal government had not begun investigating because of him. He had unknowingly walked into an investigation already underway. His evidence had accelerated it, not created it. Marcus slid a business card across the table. Direct number. Nathan accepted it. If anything unusual happens, I call. Immediately. No independent action. I understand. Rebecca gathered her folders. Before leaving, she turned back. One more thing. Nathan looked toward her. We identified the phone used to send the photograph of your house. Nathan waited. It was activated only 3 days ago. And it communicated with another disposable phone. Marcus finished the sentence. Less than 15 minutes after Gavin Whitmore left Midwest Fleet Logistics yesterday. Nathan felt no surge of triumph, only quiet confirmation. Evidence still did not prove Gavin had sent the messages, but the timing narrowed the possibilities. As the meeting ended, Marcus walked Nathan toward the elevator. Mr. Cruz. Yes. I've worked financial crime cases for 15 years. Nathan listened. People usually make one of two mistakes. What are they? They either move too quickly, he pressed the elevator button, or they become emotional. The elevator doors opened. Marcus offered one final observation. So far, you've done neither. Nathan stepped inside. As the doors slowly closed, he realized the investigation had reached a point where his patience mattered more than his intelligence. The people on the other side had millions of dollars, experienced attorneys, shell corporations, and anonymous messengers. Nathan possessed something they could not predict. He was willing to wait as long as the truth required. Nathan returned to Midwest Fleet Logistics just before noon. The drive from the federal building had been quiet. He deliberately avoided replaying every detail of the meeting. Experience had taught him that important investigations were rarely solved by obsessing over conversations. They advanced through disciplined observation. His role had changed. Until that morning, he had been an independent investigator following scattered evidence. Now he was a cooperating witness. That distinction mattered. He parked in his usual space. Routine remained part of the strategy. Inside the maintenance office, Mike Hernandez looked up. You missed quite a meeting this morning. Nathan set his briefcase beside his desk. What happened? Executive finance people were everywhere. Mike lowered his voice. They've been asking questions about old equipment purchases. Nathan answered casually. Inventory audit. Maybe. Mike shrugged. Nobody tells us anything. Nathan smiled. They usually don't. The conversation ended naturally. Nothing suggested Mike suspected anything unusual. Nathan spent the next 2 hours reviewing inspection reports and approving repair schedules. He intentionally ignored his phone. If Marcus or Rebecca needed him, they would call. At 2:15, an email appeared. From Lauren Pierce. Subject revised vendor documentation. Nathan opened it carefully. The message had been sent to more than 40 employees. Routine administrative language, updated vendor forms, revised compliance procedures. Nothing unusual, except the attachment. Every department supervisor had been instructed to acknowledge receipt electronically. Nathan downloaded the file without opening it immediately. Instead, he checked the email metadata. Sent from New York. Whitmore Legal Group. Authenticated. No obvious irregularities. Only then did he examine the attached document. Most pages contained standard compliance language, vendor reporting, invoice verification, conflict disclosure. Then page 14. A familiar logo. Empire Harbor Consulting. Nathan stared at the page. Empire Harbor had now appeared in 3 different internal company documents. Not hidden, embedded. integrated into ordinary corporate procedures. He remembered something Marcus had said. Sophisticated organizations often survived because everything looked legitimate. Nathan printed the attachment, not because he intended to investigate it independently, because documenting publicly distributed information remained entirely appropriate. Half an hour later, his office door opened. Richard Ellison stood outside. "Nathan? Come in?" Richard closed the door behind him. "Busy? Nothing urgent?" Richard remained standing. "I wanted your opinion." Nathan looked up. "About what?" "The maintenance software conversion." A genuine business discussion followed. Replacement schedules, fleet tracking, inspection intervals. For nearly 20 minutes, they discussed operational improvements, nothing related to the investigation, nothing suspicious. Richard listened carefully to every recommendation. Nathan found himself wondering whether the company president understood what might be unfolding beneath his own organization. Eventually, Richard gathered his notes. "I appreciate your honesty." "I try." Richard smiled. "That's why I asked." Before leaving, he paused. "Oh." Nathan looked toward him. "Gavin returns next week." Nathan maintained a neutral expression. "Another legal review? Several meetings?" Richard nodded. "Seems like we're expanding again." The door closed. Nathan remained seated. "Next week?" Marcus would want to know. He resisted the urge to send a message immediately. Instead, he waited until the workday ended. Patience, normal behavior, exactly as instructed. At 4 o'clock, he collected Emma from preschool. She ran toward him holding another drawing. "This one's for Mommy." Nathan accepted the paper gently. It showed 3 stick figures standing beneath a bright yellow sun. One taller than the others, one with long brown hair, one tiny figure wearing a blue dress. Above them, Emma had carefully written in uneven letters, "Family." Nathan smiled. "It's beautiful. I'm going to hang it up." She nodded proudly. During the drive home, she talked about playground games and story time. She never mentioned New York. Children naturally focused on the present. Adults often lived inside the past or future. After dinner, Emma insisted they read 2 books instead of 1. Nathan agreed. She laughed through every page. For half an hour, the investigation disappeared completely. Later that evening, after Emma had fallen asleep, Nathan stepped into the backyard. Warm summer air filled the neighborhood. Sprinklers clicked in distant yards. Someone several houses away grilled hamburgers. Normal life continued. His phone vibrated once. "Marcus." Nathan answered quietly. "Everything normal?" "So far?" Marcus spoke without introduction. "Did you receive an email from Lauren Pierce today?" Nathan looked toward the kitchen window. "Yes. We expected that." Nathan waited. Marcus continued. "Forward it to the secure address Rebecca gave you." "I already planned to." "Good." Another brief silence. Marcus rarely wasted words. "We executed 3 warrants this afternoon." Nathan felt his attention sharpen. "Were they successful?" "I can't discuss details." "I understand. But I can tell you something." Nathan listened. "They moved faster than we expected." "Who?" "The companies." Nathan frowned. "What changed?" Marcus answered carefully. "Large financial transfers began shortly after yesterday's executive meeting." Nathan immediately remembered Gavin speaking with several executives afterward. "You think they're reacting?" "We know they are." Nathan asked one question. "Did someone warn them?" Marcus paused. "We don't know." The uncertainty carried its own significance. If information continued leaking, the investigation faced a serious problem. Marcus spoke again. "Continue documenting everything." "I will." "And Nathan." "Yes. Do not assume every person inside your company is involved. Nathan appreciated the reminder. Investigations collapsed when suspicion expanded beyond evidence. "I won't." The call ended. Nathan forwarded Lauren's email through the secure encrypted address Rebecca had provided. Then he archived the original without altering it, every action documented, every timestamp preserved. Before shutting down his laptop, another notification appeared. A new voicemail. Unknown number. Length 7 seconds. Nathan pressed play. At first he heard only static, then traffic. Somewhere in the background, a woman's voice, not speaking to him, speaking to someone else. "Flight leaves at 6. The recording ended. No threat, no explanation, only 7 seconds. Nathan replayed it 3 times. Airplane announcements, rolling luggage, airport terminal acoustics. The environment sounded unmistakable. He documented the voicemail and immediately sent a copy to Marcus. Less than 3 minutes later, Marcus replied, "Do not respond. Preserve original." Nathan placed the phone on the desk. He noticed something else. The voicemail had arrived only 12 minutes after Marcus said financial transfers had accelerated. Coincidence remained possible. Still, he opened his notebook. Rather than writing theories, he listed only verified facts. Executive meeting, large transfers, anonymous voicemail, airport background, woman mentioning a 6 o'clock flight. No names, no assumptions, only evidence. He closed the notebook and looked once more toward Emma's bedroom. Every major decision since Isla's message had followed the same principle. Never guess, never chase emotion, never force conclusions. Eventually, every investigation reached a moment when scattered facts stopped behaving like isolated events. Instead, they began fitting together naturally. Nathan could feel that moment approaching. He still lacked the complete picture, but the empty spaces between the evidence had become noticeably smaller. Somewhere inside those remaining gaps stood the final connection that would explain why a simple text message had opened the door to an investigation involving shell companies, federal warrants, anonymous surveillance, and millions of dollars. He intended to find that connection, not by rushing toward it, but by allowing the evidence to arrive in its own time. The next morning began like every other weekday. Nathan woke before 6, prepared breakfast, packed Emma's preschool lunch, helped her tie the bright blue shoes she insisted on wearing, even though the laces never stayed tight. Routine remained comforting. Emma happily carried the paper drawing she had made for Isla. "Daddy?" "Yes." "When Mommy comes back, can we all go to the zoo again?" Nathan placed her backpack over her shoulders. "I hope we can." She accepted the answer with the quiet confidence only a 4-year-old possessed. During the drive to preschool, she sang along with children's songs on the radio. Nathan smiled, despite everything. For 20 minutes, financial crimes, shell companies, and federal investigations disappeared completely. After dropping Emma off, he headed toward Midwest Fleet Logistics. His phone vibrated just before he entered the parking lot. Marcus. Nathan answered through the vehicle's hands-free system. "Morning. We received something overnight." Nathan waited. "The voicemail you forwarded." "What about it?" "Our audio lab enhanced the recording." Nathan pulled into a parking space but left the engine running. They isolated a public address announcement. "And," Marcus continued, "the announcement identified Gate C-18. Nathan wrote the number on a small notepad. C-18. Columbus International Airport. Nathan frowned. "So the recording wasn't from New York?" "No." Marcus paused. "It originated here." That changed everything. Nathan had assumed the anonymous message came from someone already traveling. Instead, it had been recorded locally. Marcus continued. "The 6 o'clock departure from Gate C-18 2 nights ago." Nathan understood where this was heading. "Where did it go?" "LaGuardia." Silence filled the vehicle. Marcus finally added, "We're obtaining the passenger manifest." Nathan knew that process required legal authorization. which meant the investigation continued moving forward. I'll let you know if we find anything. The call ended. Nathan entered the building with the same calm pace as always. Inside the maintenance office, nothing appeared different. Repair orders covered the scheduling board. Mechanics discussed brake systems. Forklifts moved equipment across the warehouse floor. Ordinary work continued. At 10:30, however, another unexpected development arrived. Reception called. Nathan? Yes. You have a visitor. I wasn't expecting anyone. She says she worked with you years ago. Nathan walked toward the lobby. A woman stood near the reception desk. Late 50s, gray business suit, short silver hair, leather portfolio. He recognized her immediately. Angela. She smiled warmly. Nathan. Angela Morrison had supervised quality assurance during Nathan's years on the Federal Transportation Fraud Task Force. They had not spoken in nearly 5 years. What brings you here? She glanced toward the reception area. Coffee. Nathan immediately understood. Not here. 5 minutes later, they sat inside a small cafe across the street. Angela stirred her coffee slowly. You look well. So do you. She laughed softly. That's generous. Neither mentioned the investigation immediately. Instead, they discussed former co-workers, retirements, families, old projects. Only after the waitress refilled their cups did Angela become serious. I received a call yesterday. Nathan remained silent. From Marcus Holloway. Nathan nodded once. He asked about you. I'm not surprised. Angela folded her hands. I told him exactly what I told every prosecutor who ever worked with you. Nathan waited. That your greatest strength was patience. He smiled faintly. And my greatest weakness. You trusted documents more than people. Nathan couldn't argue. She continued. Most investigators have the opposite problem. People lie. They do. Angela looked directly at him. But documents are written by people. Nathan considered the observation carefully. It sounded simple, yet it carried years of investigative experience. She reached into her portfolio. I brought something. A single photocopied page. Nathan recognized the document instantly. One of his own reports from nearly 7 years earlier. Transportation Fraud Case 14, 772. He looked up. I remember this. I thought you might. Angela pointed toward one highlighted paragraph. Nathan reread it. The sentence had been written by his younger self. Every false record reflects a real decision made by a real person. He stared at the words. Angela smiled. You wrote that. I forgot. You shouldn't. Nathan understood why she had come, not to provide evidence, to remind him how he used to think. She stood. I have another meeting. Nathan rose with her. Thank you. Angela placed one hand on his shoulder. Don't become so fascinated by the paperwork that you stop seeing the people. Then she walked away. Nathan remained standing outside the cafe for several moments. Every investigation eventually became personal. Not because investigators wanted revenge, because every financial decision affected real lives. Back at work, he looked differently at everyone around him. Not with suspicion, with perspective. The mechanics trusted management. Receptionists trusted accounting. Drivers trusted payroll. Every paycheck represented faith that someone above them was acting honestly. Fraud damaged more than numbers. It damaged trust. That afternoon, Richard Ellison requested another brief meeting. Nathan entered the president's office. Richard appeared tired. Dark circles had formed beneath his eyes. Long week? Nathan asked. Richard sighed. You could say that. Stacks of financial reports covered the desk. Richard rubbed his forehead. Our auditors have requested additional documentation. Nathan listened quietly. They're asking about contracts from 2 years ago. Nathan asked the obvious question. Can you provide them? I hope so. Richard forced a smile. Sometimes large companies simply become messy. Nathan noticed the uncertainty. Not guilt, uncertainty. Richard genuinely appeared confused. The meeting remained focused on operational matters before Nathan returned downstairs. One observation stayed with him. If Richard were directing a massive financial conspiracy, he hid stress extraordinarily well. Or, he knew far less than people assumed. At 4 o'clock, Nathan picked up Emma. She carried a small plastic dinosaur. My teacher said he's brave. Nathan smiled. What's his name? Captain Green. A good name. She held the toy toward him. He protects everybody. Nathan accepted the dinosaur. I think every family could use someone like Captain Green. Emma nodded enthusiastically. Back home while she colored in the living room, Nathan's phone vibrated once. A secure message from Marcus. Passenger manifest confirmed. Nathan opened the encrypted attachment. Dozens of passenger names. Business travelers. Families. Vacationers. Near the middle of the list appeared one familiar name. Lauren Pierce. Seat 3A. Flight departing Columbus at 6:02 p.m. Destination LaGuardia. Date. The same evening, the anonymous voicemail had been recorded. Nathan read the document twice. A second name appeared only 4 rows lower. Gavin Whitmore. Seat 2C. Same flight. Same departure. Nathan immediately locked the phone and looked toward Emma. She remained completely absorbed in coloring Captain Green with an oversized green crayon. Nathan quietly walked into his office. He called Marcus. I saw the manifest. So did you notice it? Lauren and Gavin. Yes. Marcus's voice remained calm. We've confirmed they traveled together? Nathan asked carefully. Did they purchase tickets together? We're still determining that. Nathan understood. Evidence remained incomplete. Still, one undeniable fact now existed. On the very evening, an anonymous recording captured a departure announcement at Columbus International Airport. Both Gavin Whitmore and Lauren Pierce boarded the exact flight mentioned in the enhanced audio. The investigation had not reached its conclusion, but another separate thread had just connected itself to the growing web of evidence. And for the first time, Nathan could see that every new discovery was no longer creating additional mysteries. Instead, each discovery was quietly eliminating the remaining possibilities. By Thursday morning, Nathan could feel a subtle change inside the company. Nothing dramatic had happened. No emergency meetings had been announced. No executives had disappeared. Yet conversations became quieter whenever legal matters surfaced. Employees who normally laughed in the break room now lowered their voices. Accounting staff walked more quickly between offices. Even the reception desk received an unusual number of overnight deliveries marked confidential. Nathan noticed every detail without reacting to any of them. Marcus had been clear. Observe. Do not interfere. Just after 9 o'clock, Rebecca called. I wanted to give you advance notice. About what? Search warrants. Nathan closed his office door. They've been approved. They have? Nathan remained silent. Rebecca continued. They won't all be executed today. Simultaneously. As close as possible. Nathan understood the strategy. Executing warrants at different times allowed evidence to disappear. Executing them together prevented warning others. Will Midwest Fleet Logistics be searched? I can't answer that. I expected as much. Rebecca lowered her voice. What I can tell you is this. Nathan waited. Today's objective is preserving records before they're altered. That sentence alone revealed how seriously investigators viewed the case. Nathan thanked her before ending the call. He returned to reviewing maintenance reports. 15 minutes later, Richard Ellison appeared unexpectedly outside his office. Nathan. Morning. Richard looked exhausted. I need a favor. What is it? I'd like you to attend tomorrow's operations review. Nathan looked surprised. I'm usually not invited. I know. Richard managed a tired smile. I want practical opinions instead of polished presentations. Nathan accepted without hesitation. I'll be there. Richard hesitated before leaving. You've always been honest with me. Nathan answered carefully. I've tried. Richard nodded once. I appreciate that. After Richard walked away, Nathan considered the exchange. Nothing in Richard's behavior resembled someone orchestrating a sophisticated financial scheme. He looked like a man trying to understand why his own company suddenly felt unstable. At 11:30, Marcus called. We're beginning. Nathan immediately understood. The warrants... Yes. I won't ask for details. Good. Marcus paused. But I do need one thing. What? If anyone inside your company suddenly leaves. Nathan reached for his notebook. Document it. Exactly. The call lasted less than 30 seconds. By early afternoon, the first sign appeared. Lauren Pierce's scheduled video conference with Midwest Fleet Logistics was canceled. No explanation. Simply canceled. Nathan learned about it only because the conference room reservation disappeared from the internal calendar. He made no assumptions. He simply noted the time. 1:14 p.m. conference canceled. At 2 o'clock, another unusual event occurred. The chief financial officer, Melissa Grant, left the building carrying 2 bankers' boxes. Nathan watched from his office window. She placed both boxes into the trunk of her car, then stopped, looked at her phone, waited. Almost 2 full minutes passed. Finally, she removed the boxes from the trunk and carried them back inside. Nathan immediately recognized indecision. Not guilt, not innocence, only uncertainty. Someone had apparently instructed her to do something, then instructed her not to. He wrote down the exact sequence, nothing more. At 3:15, Marcus sent a secure text. Remain where you are. Business as usual. Nathan followed the instruction exactly. He approved maintenance invoices, answered emails, discussed tire replacement schedules with technicians. Nothing about his behavior suggested he knew federal investigators were moving across multiple locations. Outside, dark clouds gathered over Columbus. A summer storm rolled across the city shortly before 4. Heavy rain struck the warehouse roof. Thunder echoed through the maintenance bays. Employees hurried toward their cars after clocking out. Nathan picked up Emma in the rain. She laughed as they splashed through puddles toward the SUV. Listen. She pointed upward as thunder rumbled again. The sky is talking. Nathan smiled. What do you think it's saying? She thought seriously. It's telling everybody to hurry home. I think you might be right. Back home, they baked frozen pizza together. Emma insisted on arranging pepperoni slices into the shape of a smiley face. Nathan let her. Normal moments mattered. After dinner, she fell asleep almost immediately. The rain continued outside. Nathan cleaned the kitchen before settling into his office. At exactly 8:42 p.m., Marcus called. His voice sounded calm, but noticeably different. We're finished. Nathan sat down. How did it go? Marcus answered carefully. I can share limited information now. Nathan listened. Multiple locations were searched. We secured electronic devices, financial records, corporate servers. Nathan remained silent. Marcus continued. No arrests. Not yet. Not today. Nathan appreciated the precision. What about evidence? Marcus paused. We found more than we expected. Nathan felt no satisfaction, only curiosity. Marcus spoke again. Remember the missing contracts you documented? Yes. They weren't destroyed. Nathan leaned forward. Where were they? They had been scanned. And the originals were stored off-site. Nathan closed his eyes briefly. Someone had gone to significant effort to preserve documents while making them appear missing. "Who rented the storage facility?" Marcus answered immediately. "Not Gavin. Not Lauren." Nathan frowned. "Then who?" "A document management company." Nathan waited. They were following instructions from someone using legitimate authorization. The answer created another question. Who possessed authority to relocate contracts without attracting attention? Marcus continued. "We also recovered internal communication logs." Nathan listened carefully. Several messages had been deleted. "But our forensic team restored many of them." Nathan recognized the significance immediately. Digital deletion rarely meant permanent disappearance. "What did they show?" "I can't discuss contents." Marcus paused. "But I can tell you something important." Nathan waited. "The messages don't match the public timeline." Nathan understood. Someone had altered official records after the fact. Marcus added one final point. "Tomorrow you'll probably hear rumors." "What kind?" "Audits. Compliance reviews. Software maintenance." Nathan almost smiled. "Cover stories." "Exactly. Don't correct anyone." "I won't." After the call ended, Nathan stood quietly beside the living room window. Rain still covered the street. Neighborhood lights reflected across wet pavement. His phone vibrated once more. A secure message from Rebecca. One attachment. No text. Nathan opened it. A photograph. Not of evidence, not of money, not of contracts. A white evidence tag attached to a cardboard archive box. Across the front, investigators had written one simple label. Midwest Fleet Logistics. Original contracts. Recovered. Nathan stared at the image for a long moment. The contracts had never truly vanished. Someone had only wanted them hidden long enough for certain financial transactions to appear legitimate. Every false invoice, every shell company payment, every suspicious transfer. Each one depended on paperwork that investigators now possessed. Nathan quietly locked his phone and looked toward Emma's bedroom. She remained asleep, completely unaware that the investigation surrounding her family had crossed another critical threshold. The search warrants had not ended the case. They had transformed it. Until now, investigators had been proving that suspicious activity existed. Beginning tomorrow, they would begin proving exactly who had authorized it. And Nathan knew from experience that once original documents entered federal evidence, the truth usually stopped hiding for very long. Friday morning arrived with an uneasy stillness. Nathan noticed it before he even reached the office. News vans stood several blocks away from the downtown financial district. Traffic moved more slowly than usual. People gathered in small groups outside coffee shops, staring at their phones. Something had become public. When he parked at Midwest Fleet Logistics, his own phone vibrated. Marcus. "You've probably seen the reporters." "On my way in." "They're responding to search activity." "Has anything been announced?" "Only that federal agencies executed multiple financial search warrants." "No names?" "Not yet." Nathan thanked him before ending the call. Inside the company, employees were already discussing the news. Mike Hernandez leaned against Nathan's office door. "You hear about the federal searches?" "I heard something on the radio." Mike lowered his voice. "They're saying several consulting companies were involved." Nathan shrugged naturally. "The news usually gets ahead of the facts." "I guess." Mike returned to the maintenance floor. Nathan continued his work exactly as he had every other day. Repair schedules, equipment inspections, safety certifications. Nothing in his behavior suggested he possessed information unavailable to everyone else. At 9 o'clock, Richard Ellison began the operations review he had mentioned earlier. Department supervisors filled the conference room. Nathan took a seat near the end of the table. For nearly 30 minutes, the meeting proceeded normally. Fuel costs, vehicle availability, insurance renewals, warehouse expansion. Then Richard paused. He closed the presentation on the large monitor. I have one additional topic. The room became quiet. As some of you have already heard, federal authorities executed search warrants involving several outside organizations. Nobody spoke. Richard continued carefully. Midwest Fleet Logistics has not been accused of criminal wrongdoing. Nathan noticed Richard choosing every word with extreme caution. However, we've been asked to preserve all financial and operational records. Several managers exchanged nervous glances. Richard raised one hand. I expect complete cooperation. His voice remained calm. If investigators contact any employee, answer honestly. No one objected. No one asked questions. The meeting ended 10 minutes later. As people filed out, Nathan remained behind. Richard approached him. Can we talk? Of course. The conference room emptied. Richard leaned against the table. I don't know what's happening. Nathan listened. I've built this company for 22 years. Richard looked genuinely troubled. If someone used it for something illegal? He stopped speaking. Nathan answered carefully. The truth usually becomes clear when people cooperate. Richard nodded slowly. I intend to. Nathan believed him. Not because he wanted to, because Richard's reactions matched confusion rather than calculation. Outside the conference room, Nathan checked his phone. One secure message waited. Rebecca, can you meet at noon? Same location. Nathan replied with a single word. Yes. At noon, he entered the federal building once again. This time, Marcus was already waiting. So was another man Nathan had never met before. Mid-50s, dark suit, thin reading glasses, calm posture. Marcus introduced them. Nathan, this is Daniel Brooks. Nathan shook his hand. Assistant United States Attorney. Daniel smiled politely. I've reviewed your timeline. Nathan sat down. Daniel opened a thick binder. I wanted to thank you personally. Nathan looked surprised. For what? You documented facts. Daniel folded his hands. Not opinions. Nathan remained quiet. Daniel continued. That makes prosecutions much easier. Nathan understood. Jurors trusted evidence more than emotion. Daniel turned several pages. We've completed an initial review of the recovered contracts. Nathan listened closely. They match invoices submitted to Midwest Fleet Logistics. So the contracts were genuine? Daniel nodded. Yes. But they were altered. Nathan frowned. Altered how? Daniel slid one document across the table. 2 nearly identical contracts, different dates, different payment schedules, different authorization signatures. The original version. Daniel pointed toward the first. The version entered into accounting. He pointed toward the second. Nathan examined both carefully. The differences looked subtle, almost invisible, unless someone compared them side by side. Daniel continued. The altered versions authorized consulting fees that never existed. Nathan looked up. Meaning every payment afterward appeared legitimate. Exactly. Marcus added another fact. Our forensic accountants estimate more than $20 million flowed through those modified agreements. Nathan slowly leaned back. 20 million. The scale continued growing. Daniel closed the binder. The good news? Nathan waited. The original contracts survived. And the altered ones. They survived too. Nathan immediately understood. Someone had failed to destroy either version, which meant investigators could demonstrate deliberate alteration that mattered enormously in court. Daniel continued. We've also interviewed document management employees. Nathan listened. They confirmed receiving instructions electronically. From whom? Daniel answered carefully. The account belonged to Lauren Pierce. Nathan absorbed the information. Did she send them herself? We don't know. Marcus added, "Someone used her authenticated credentials." Nathan appreciated the distinction. Credentials did not automatically identify the individual. Evidence still required proof. Daniel smiled slightly. "You think exactly like a prosecutor." Nathan replied quietly, "I think like someone who spent years trying not to accuse the wrong person." Daniel nodded approvingly. "That's why your testimony will matter." Nathan looked at him. "My testimony. When the time comes." The words hung quietly in the room. For the first time, Nathan fully understood his future role. Not investigator, not victim, witness. Daniel changed the subject. "We've contacted Isla's attorney." Nathan remained composed. "She has one already?" "Yes." Daniel studied Nathan's expression. "You didn't know?" "No." Daniel made a brief note. "She's expected to surrender voluntarily early next week for questioning." Nathan felt neither relief nor anger, only sadness. Everything had become real. Marcus spoke next. "We still don't know her exact level of involvement." Nathan nodded. "I understand. Don't assume guilt beyond what evidence proves." "I won't." Daniel gathered his papers. "That's exactly the approach we intend to present in court." The meeting concluded shortly afterward. As Nathan walked toward the elevator, Marcus caught up with him. "One more thing." Nathan stopped. "We recovered security footage." "From where?" "The storage facility." Nathan waited. Marcus continued. "It shows Lauren Pierce entering the archive warehouse." Nathan asked the obvious question. "Alone?" Marcus shook his head. "No." Nathan's attention sharpened. "Who was with her?" "We haven't officially identified the second person." Marcus paused. "But we know one thing." "What?" "It wasn't Gavin Whitmore." Nathan considered that carefully. Another assumption had just disappeared. Someone else had participated in moving the contracts. Someone investigators had not yet publicly identified. Outside the federal building, Nathan looked across the courthouse plaza. Lawyers hurried between offices carrying briefcases. Reporters waited near television cameras. Police officers directed pedestrians around temporary barriers. Everyone moved with purpose. The legal process had its own rhythm. Slow, methodical. Evidence first, conclusion second. He drove directly to Emma's preschool. She ran into his arms carrying Captain Green the dinosaur. "We made cookies today." "Did Captain Green help?" "He watched." Nathan laughed. "Very important job." As they walked toward the SUV, Emma reached for his hand. Without thinking, Nathan squeezed it gently. The courtroom would eventually decide criminal responsibility. The evidence would determine who had lied. The contracts would explain where millions of dollars had gone. But none of those things mattered as much as the small hand holding his. That simple reminder kept him focused from the beginning. He had never pursued the investigation to win an argument. He had pursued it to build an honest future for the little girl walking beside him. And soon, 12 ordinary citizens inside a federal courtroom would begin hearing the evidence that made that future possible. 3 months later, the United States District Court in Columbus became the center of a case that had quietly expanded far beyond a single marriage. Federal prosecutors had spent weeks organizing evidence. Forensic accountants reconstructed financial transactions. Digital specialists recovered deleted communications. Document analysts compared original contracts against altered versions. Every exhibit followed the same principle Nathan had trusted from the beginning: facts before conclusions. By the first morning of trial, reporters lined the courthouse entrance. Television cameras waited across the street. Employees from Midwest Fleet Logistics entered through the public doors, alongside attorneys, investigators, and curious observers. Nathan arrived early. He wore a dark navy suit he had not worn since his years with the Federal Transportation Task Force. Marcus Holloway greeted him near the security checkpoint. "You ready?" Nathan answered honestly. "As ready as anyone can be." Marcus nodded. You only have one responsibility. Tell the truth. Exactly. Inside Courtroom 3 proceedings began promptly at 9 o'clock. Judge Eleanor Watkins entered. Everyone stood. The courtroom settled into silence. On one side sat Assistant United States Attorney Daniel Brooks and his prosecution team. Across the aisle sat multiple defense attorneys representing different defendants. Nathan recognized Gavin Whitmore immediately. The attorney who had once confidently walked through Midwest Fleet Logistics now sat quietly beside his legal counsel. Lauren Pierce occupied another table. She looked noticeably thinner than Nathan remembered. Isla sat farther away. Nathan had not seen her in months. For just a brief moment their eyes met. Neither smiled. Neither looked away in anger. The distance between them no longer required words. Opening statements consumed most of the first day. Daniel addressed the jury calmly. This case is not about sophisticated accounting. He paused. It is about deliberate deception. He explained how altered contracts created the appearance of legitimate consulting payments, how shell companies received funds, how electronic records concealed the original financial path. The defense responded predictably. Complex business transactions, administrative misunderstandings, poor record-keeping, no criminal intent. Nathan listened carefully. Both sides remained professional. Nothing resembled dramatic courtroom television. Real trials moved deliberately. Every claim required proof. During the following week, forensic accountants testified first. Charts demonstrated the movement of money. Bank representatives authenticated transfers. Document custodians established the chain of custody for recovered contracts. Rebecca Lawson explained how investigators traced financial activity through multiple corporate entities. Every witness added another piece. None attempted to tell the entire story alone. On the sixth day, Daniel called Nathan. "Nathan Cruz." Nathan walked to the witness stand. He took the oath, sat down. Daniel approached. "Please state your occupation." "I'm the fleet maintenance supervisor at Midwest Fleet Logistics." "Were you previously employed by the federal government?" "Yes." "What was your role?" "I specialized in transportation fraud data analysis." Daniel nodded. "Were you conducting a federal investigation when this case began?" "No." "What caused you to begin documenting financial information?" Nathan answered carefully. "I received a text message intended for someone else." Daniel displayed the message on a courtroom monitor. "See you in New York." The jury examined it quietly. Daniel continued. "Did that message immediately prove criminal activity?" "No." "What did it prove?" "Nothing." The answer surprised several jurors. Nathan continued before Daniel even asked another question. It only justified asking additional questions. Daniel smiled slightly. "What did you do next?" Nathan described every step exactly as it had occurred. He never exaggerated. He never speculated. He explained creating timelines, preserving metadata, reviewing public corporate filings, documenting travel patterns, meeting Rebecca only after discovering independently verifiable financial irregularities. Daniel eventually asked, "Did you ever access information illegally?" "No." "Did anyone instruct you to fabricate evidence?" "No." "Did you alter any documents presented in this courtroom?" "No." The prosecutor finished. "Your witness." Defense attorney Melissa Harding stood. She approached slowly. "Mr. Cruz." "Good afternoon." "You suspected your wife of having an affair." "I suspected something." "And that emotional suspicion motivated everything afterward." Nathan considered the wording. "My emotions motivated me to ask questions." "And your conclusions?" "Were based on evidence." Melissa nodded. "You never actually witnessed Miss Pierce alter contracts?" "No." "You never personally observed Mr. Whitmore transfer money?" "No." "You cannot testify regarding what happened inside private meetings." Correct. She smiled. So your investigation depended entirely on assumptions. Nathan remained calm. No. Explain. My investigation depended on verifying whether assumptions were correct. The courtroom became noticeably quieter. Melissa tried another approach. You believed your wife was guilty. Nathan answered immediately. No. She hesitated. You didn't? I believed evidence would determine guilt. Melissa looked briefly toward the jury before continuing. If the evidence had proven your wife completely innocent, Nathan interrupted gently, I would have accepted that. No objection came from either side. The answer stood. After nearly 40 minutes, Melissa returned to counsel table. Nathan stepped down. Marcus met him briefly outside the courtroom during recess. You did well. Nathan shook his head. I answered questions. Marcus smiled. Exactly. The trial continued for another 2 weeks. Digital forensic experts recovered deleted communications, showing multiple versions of contract revisions. Document specialists explained microscopic differences in ink printing dates and electronic timestamps. Storage facility employees identified Lauren Pierce as the individual who authorized contract relocation using authenticated credentials. Additional witnesses established that Gavin Whitmore approved legal language inserted into amended consulting agreements. The prosecution never claimed every defendant played the same role. Instead, they demonstrated how different participants contributed to different stages of the scheme. Near the end of trial, Daniel presented the recovered email chain restored from deleted servers. Jurors watched as messages appeared chronologically: draft, revision, approval, deletion, recovery. The sequence removed nearly every remaining uncertainty. Closing arguments lasted 1 day. Daniel addressed the jury quietly. Fraud succeeds when ordinary paperwork becomes invisible. He held up 2 nearly identical contracts. These documents looked almost identical. He turned toward the jury. Almost. The defense argued reasonable doubt, administrative complexity, shared responsibility, lack of direct eyewitnesses. Judge Watkins instructed the jury carefully. Sympathy could not influence the verdict. Speculation could not replace evidence. Only facts presented during trial mattered. The jury deliberated for 2 days. Nathan spent those hours at work. He repaired schedules, attended meetings, picked up Emma from preschool. Life refused to pause while justice reached its conclusion. Late Friday afternoon, Daniel called. They've reached a verdict. Nathan drove downtown without speaking. Inside the courtroom, every seat was filled. The jurors returned. No one moved. Judge Watkins accepted the sealed verdict forms. Nathan looked briefly toward Isla. She stared straight ahead. Neither hope nor fear showed clearly on her face, only exhaustion. The courtroom clerk unfolded the first page. Every person present understood that after months of investigation, thousands of recovered documents, millions of dollars traced through corporate accounts, and weeks of testimony the next few minutes would permanently change every life connected to the case. Nathan lowered his eyes for only a moment. Whatever the verdict became, he knew one truth could never be changed. He had followed the evidence wherever it led. Nothing more, nothing less. The courtroom remained silent as the clerk began reading the verdict forms. Every voice seemed distant, every movement slowed. Nathan stood beside the gallery wall with Marcus Holloway only a few feet away. Daniel Brooks sat quietly at the prosecution table, showing no expression. Years in federal court had taught him never to celebrate before every verdict had been read. The clerk unfolded the first page. On count 1, conspiracy to commit wire fraud. A pause. We, the jury, find the defendant Gavin Whitmore. Nathan looked toward the defense table. Guilty. No one reacted immediately. The clerk continued reading. Wire fraud, financial conspiracy, false statements. Additional guilty verdicts followed. Not every charge resulted in conviction. Some counts ended in not guilty findings. Others produced guilty verdicts supported by stronger evidence. The process remained precise. Each count stood on its own. Then came Lauren Pierce. The jury found her guilty on multiple fraud-related counts involving falsified contract authorizations and electronic record manipulation. One charge resulted in acquittal. The remaining charges did not. Finally, the courtroom reached Isla. Nathan unconsciously held his breath. The clerk read carefully. The jury found insufficient evidence that Isla had participated in creating the fraudulent financial structure itself. Several conspiracy charges resulted in not guilty verdicts. However, one count remained, making materially false statements during a federal financial investigation. Guilty. The single word echoed through the courtroom. Nathan closed his eyes for only a moment. It was neither complete innocence nor the devastating outcome he had once feared. The jury had concluded that investigators failed to prove Isla helped build the fraud, but they had concluded she lied after the investigation began. Judge Watkins thanked the jurors for their service. Sentencing would occur several months later after presentence investigations. Court adjourned. People slowly began leaving. Reporters rushed toward the courthouse steps. Attorneys gathered files. Federal agents quietly escorted the convicted defendants through secured exits. Nathan remained standing. He felt no victory, only relief that uncertainty had finally ended. Outside the courtroom, Isla approached him before marshals directed her elsewhere. For several seconds, they simply looked at one another. "I never expected this." Her voice sounded tired rather than defensive. Nathan answered honestly. "Neither did I." She looked toward the courthouse windows. "I should have told the truth the first day." Nathan nodded. "Probably. I thought I could protect everyone." She laughed bitterly. "I ended up protecting no one." Nathan did not argue. Because she was right. A marshal gently informed her it was time to leave. Before turning away, she asked one final question. "How's Emma?" Nathan smiled softly. "She's happy." Tears appeared in Isla's eyes. "Tell her—" She stopped herself. "No." Nathan waited. "Just tell her I love her." "I will." She nodded once before following the marshal down the hallway. Nathan never saw her again that day. Several months later, Judge Watkins imposed sentence. Gavin Whitmore received a substantial federal prison term, followed by supervised release, along with financial penalties and permanent disbarment proceedings. Lauren Pierce received a shorter prison sentence based on her cooperation after conviction restitution obligations and supervised release. Isla received a significantly reduced sentence, reflecting the jury's limited conviction, her lack of direct involvement in the financial conspiracy itself, and additional mitigating circumstances considered by the court. Daniel Brooks later explained the distinction. Truth matters. He and Nathan sat outside a small coffee shop after sentencing. "So does proportional responsibility." Nathan nodded. "The jury separated those ideas." "They did." Daniel smiled. "That's exactly what we hope juries do." A year passed. Life became remarkably ordinary again. Nathan remained at Midwest Fleet Logistics. Richard Ellison successfully guided the company through extensive compliance reforms. Independent auditors reviewed every consulting agreement. New oversight procedures required multiple approvals for significant financial transactions. Anonymous reporting systems became standard. Employees completed ethics training every year. The company recovered slowly. Trust, Nathan learned, returned much more gradually than profits. Emma turned 6. She started elementary school. Captain Green the dinosaur still occupied a place of honor on her bedroom shelf, despite missing one painted eye. Some evenings they visited the Columbus Zoo exactly as she had once hoped. Other weekends they rode bicycles through neighborhood parks. Sometimes they simply stayed home building blanket forts in the living room. Normal life felt extraordinary after everything they had endured. One Saturday morning, Nathan found Emma drawing at the kitchen table. "What are you making?" "Our family." Nathan looked at the paper. She had drawn herself. Nathan, Captain Green, the family dog they adopted several months earlier. One figure remained unfinished. Emma noticed him looking. "I'm drawing Mommy, too." Nathan sat beside her. "Would you like help?" She nodded. Together they colored the picture. No complicated explanations, no courtroom discussions, no financial crimes, just crayons. After she finished, Emma smiled proudly. "Now everybody's here." Nathan placed the drawing on the refrigerator. That afternoon he received an unexpected email. From Angela Morrison. Subject line, retirement. Nathan called immediately. "So it's official," Angela laughed. 40 years is enough." "I think you've earned it." "I probably have." Before ending the conversation, she said something he would remember for the rest of his life. "Do you remember the report I showed you? The one I wrote years ago?" "Yes." Nathan smiled. "Every false record reflects a real decision made by a real person." Angela laughed softly. "You remembered?" "I did." She became quiet. "I think you should add another sentence." Nathan waited. "What would it be?" Angela answered without hesitation. "Every honest decision eventually becomes part of someone else's future." After the call ended, Nathan wrote the sentence on a small card and placed it inside the notebook that had accompanied him throughout the investigation. The same notebook that contained dates, flight numbers, corporate filings, anonymous messages, observations, questions. Not accusations, questions. That evening, after Emma had fallen asleep, Nathan sat alone on the back porch. The Ohio summer air felt warm. Fireflies drifted across the yard. Traffic moved quietly in the distance. He thought back to the single text message that had changed everything. "See you in New York." At the time, it had seemed like the beginning of a story about betrayal. Instead, it became a story about choices. One mistaken text exposed hidden financial crimes. One careful decision not to react emotionally protected an innocent child. One commitment to facts prevented false accusations. One investigation reminded an entire company that integrity could disappear slowly, but could also be rebuilt one honest decision at a time. Nathan closed the notebook for the final time. The evidence had done its job. The courts had done theirs. Now his responsibility was much simpler. Tomorrow morning he would wake before sunrise, pack Emma's school lunch, help her tie her shoes, drive her to school, go to work, come home, read another bedtime story. Because in the end, justice was never the destination. It simply cleared the road so ordinary life could begin again. Every life-changing story often begins with something that seems small, a single message, one unexpected moment, or a simple question that refuses to leave our minds. But what truly defines us is not the event itself. It is the choices we make afterward. Nathan could have allowed anger, revenge, and assumptions to control his actions. Instead, he chose patience over impulse truth, over speculation, and evidence over emotion. That decision not only uncovered the truth, but also protected innocent people from becoming victims of false accusations. This story reminds us that integrity is rarely tested when life is easy. It is tested when we are hurt, betrayed, or disappointed. In those moments, character is revealed by our willingness to remain honest, fair, and compassionate, even when our emotions tell us to do otherwise. Lies may seem powerful for a season, but they require more lies to survive. Truth often moves quietly and slowly, yet once it arrives, it has the strength to outlast everything built on deception. Perhaps the greatest lesson is that justice is not about revenge. It is about restoring what matters most: trust, dignity, and the opportunity to move forward. No matter what challenges you face today, remember that every honest decision you make is an investment in the future you are building for yourself and for the people you love. If this story touched your heart or made you reflect on your own life, please share your thoughts in the comments. I'd truly love to hear what lesson resonated with you the most. And if you enjoy meaningful stories about truth, resilience, and the strength of the human spirit, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss our next inspiring story. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.